We live in interesting times for the headlines. Indian police say they shot dead 4 men in custody who were accused of gang raping a woman, prompting accusations of extrajudicial killings but also celebrations. Several Australian bushfires have combined to form a mega fire that's burning out of control across a swath of land north of Sydney, authorities said Friday, warning they cannot contain the blaze. Top U.S. Democrat Nancy Pelosi gives the green light to draft articles of impeachment against President Trump as the embattled president vows he will win the coming fight. And worldwide, more than 140,000 people died from measles in 2018, according to new estimates from the World Health Organization and the U.S. Centers for Diseases Control and Prevention. And these deaths occurred as measles cases surged globally amidst devastating outbreaks in all regions. I'm Alma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world. Thank you very much for joining us, and now to the news. Indian police shot dead 4 detained gang raped and murder suspects as they were reenacting their alleged crime, prompting outrage but also wild celebrations. The men who had been in custody for a week were shot early Friday morning as they tried to escape during the reenactment in the southern city of Hyderabad, according to police. Now, Deputy Police Commissioner Prakash Reddy said they were killed in crossfire and they tried to snatch weapons from the guards, but they were shot dead. The 4 were accused of raping, murdering and burning the body of the woman, a 27-year-old veterinary doctor who had parked her scooter on a busy highway in November. They allegedly then raped and murdered the woman before setting the body on fire under an isolated bridge. The woman, who cannot be named for legal reasons, had called her sister, informing her that she was scared of the man who had offered to help her before her phone went off. The man deflated her scooter tire and lured her to a truck yard with the promise of fixing the machine, according to police. Now, there were other reports of people celebrating the shootings from several parts of the country. However, rights activists accused the government of using arbitrary violence to avoid accountability. Police in India are often accused of using extrajudicial killings to bypass the legal process, often as a cover-up in botched investigations or to pacify public anger. Meanwhile, protests continued in Delhi as demonstrators took to the streets demanding harsher punishment for rapists, including death by hanging. The spark for the protests was the gang rape and murder by 4 men of the 27-year-old vet next to a busy road in the outskirts of Hyderabad in southern India last week. Take a look.
हमें ये सोच के डर लगता है कि हम जब जा रहे हैं बाहर तो कोई लड़का हमें कुछ कह ना दे या हमारे साथ कुछ कर ना ले। डर बैठ जाता है दिल में कि हमारे साथ क्या हो रहा है,
क्योंकि उनके अंदर एक डर बैठना बहुत ज़रूरी है। जिस प्रकार हम सारी महिलाओं में डर बैठ चुका है कि हम लोग घर सुरक्षित पहुंचेंगी या नहीं पहुंचेंगी। अगर एक भी रेपिस्ट को फांसी दी जाए, उनको जनता के हवाले किया जाए, तो शायद उनके अंदर भी वो डर बैठे।
4 महिला ना गर्दन उतार देंगे ना रेप करने वाले का, तो ऑटोमेटिकली सब समाज में सुधार आ जाएगा। मैं तो कहती हूँ महिलाओं को तलवार लेके निकलना चाहिए। जहाँ ऐसे दरिंदे मिले उसी तरह उसके गर्दन को कलाम कर दो, गर्दन उतार के उसके हाथ में रख दो।
Several Australian bushfires have combined to form a mega fire that's burning out of control across a swath of land north of Sydney, according to authorities, warning they cannot contain the blaze. New South Wales Rural Fire Service Deputy Commissioner Rob Rogers said there are probably more than 8 fires in all that have merged to form what has been dubbed a mega fire in an area of National Park Forest. The blaze was burning across 300,000 hectares, an area roughly 60 kilometers across, within an hour's drive of Australia's largest city, which was again subsumed in a soup of toxic smoke. Prolonged drought has left much of eastern Australia tinder dry, and spot fires have raged every day for the past 3 months. Bushfires are common in Australia, but scientists say this year's season has come earlier and with more intensity due to a prolonged drought and climatic conditions fueled by global warming. Walkabout Wildlife Park said it had shipped out lizards, dingoes, peacocks, and marsupials as firefighters battled more than 100 fires up and down the eastern seaboard. New South Wales Rural Fire Chief Shane Fitzman said some U.S. and Canadian firefighters had arrived to help out. The specialists are expected to supervise water bombing planes and heavy equipment used in creating fire containment lines.
And by mid-afternoon, and the flames through the...
Meanwhile, 2 months of relentless rains have submerged villages and farms and sent rivers of mud crashing into houses across East Africa, with at least 265 killed, according to an AFP tally, as meteorologists warn of more to come. The extreme downpours have affected close to 2 million people and washed away tens of thousands of livestock in Kenya, Somalia, Burundi, Tanzania, South Sudan, Uganda, Djibouti, and Ethiopia. With a tropical storm headed for Somalia and more rain forecast across the region in the coming weeks, fears are rising over waterborne diseases and the prospect of hunger as crops are destroyed. Nation's press statement reporting that some areas received the equivalent of 2 years of rainfall occurred in one day in heavy downpours 2 weeks ago. The extreme weather is blamed on the Indian Ocean dipole, a climate system defined by the difference in sea surface temperature between the western and eastern areas of the ocean. At the moment, the ocean around East Africa is far warmer than usual, resulting in higher evaporation and moist air flowing inwards over the continent as rain, the hallmarks of a positive dipole. Scientists say the strength of this dipole is of a magnitude not seen in years, perhaps even decades. And Samoa continued a 2-day lockdown on Friday to carry out an unprecedented mass vaccination drive aimed at containing a measles epidemic, which has killed dozens of children in the Pacific Island nation.
Health facilities have been overwhelmed in coping with the influx of patients. The impacts of this emergency will be far-reaching on Samoa and our people, particularly our young generations. It is imperative, therefore, to strengthen the culture of acceptance of vaccination in order to create herd immunity. This is a painful lesson we have learned from the current crisis. At this time, we must redesign our vaccination system as an integral part of the health system reform, and also strengthen our community social infrastructure, including schools and community-based organizations, to enable a culture of responsibility for the health of our children, our families, and our society.
The crisis is not going to end with the last patient of measles walking away from the hospital. So we all realize that we need to build a system of immunization that is well managed, that there are medical records in the system, that people are monitored in terms of their time when they need to return for vaccination. Such a system does not exist right now, so we would like to be able to help the Ministry of Health and health facilities to develop it. It is also very important to look into the reliance of people on medical services and on immunization primarily. Because of some past stories, some of the mothers would not necessarily follow strictly the immunization schedule. And it's not only about measles. We talk about many other diseases that have a vaccine, that have a cure, that people should have access to. So building that confidence is a very, very lengthy process.
Meanwhile, Samoan authorities warned Friday that anti-vaccine propaganda would not be tolerated after a social media campaigner was arrested for opposing a mass immunization drive aimed at containing the Pacific nation's deadly measles epidemic. The government backed its tough rhetoric by arresting vocal anti-vaccination campaigner Edwin Tamasese late Thursday and charging him with incitement against a government order. Officials said they acted after Tamasese had ignored previous warnings to stop his campaign. Tamasese, who has no medical training, has railed against vaccines on his Facebook page and advocates using quack remedies such as papaya leaf extract to treat measles. In a final post on Thursday before his arrest, Tamasese described the vaccination drive as the greatest crime against our people. And he said vitamin C would save children. Samoa was on Friday enduring its second day of a lockdown as government and aid workers spread out across the nation of 200,000 people to vaccinate as many as possible. UNICEF's regional chief on Thursday told AFP that social media giants such as Facebook and Twitter were incredibly irresponsible for allowing the misinformation to spread on their platforms. Worldwide, more than 140,000 people died from measles in 2018, according to new estimates from the World Health Organization and the U.S. Centers for Diseases and Control and Prevention. Now, these deaths occurred as measles cases surged globally amidst devastating outbreaks in all regions. Let's listen in.
Our finding is that in 2018 there's been an increase in both the cases and the deaths that have occurred from measles. In other words, we're backsliding. The reason we're having increases in cases and deaths of measles has to do fundamentally with people not getting vaccinated. We have a safe, effective measles vaccine that's been used for 50 years. Hundreds of millions of people have been immunized safely with this vaccine. And now fewer people are getting vaccinated than need to be vaccinated to prevent cases and outbreaks. In many different countries, there are a variety of reasons why people aren't getting vaccinated. The main reason for failure to vaccinate against measles is families, communities are not having access to the vaccine. The inability of the vaccine program and the health system to provide vaccine to everybody, everywhere, when they need it. A second reason, especially in communities that have widespread access, is people's confidence in vaccines in general and decision-making around whether or not to access those vaccines. We're seeing a surge in misinformation around vaccines in general, and in particular around measles vaccine. This is a very high concern for us because families, parents are really vulnerable to misinformation. It's very difficult to discern if you're not somebody who understands where the information is coming from, to discern accurate, scientific, credible information from misinformation. We're urging both the social media companies, working with them to try to assure that they're using mechanisms that people have accurate information when they're searching for information, and also working with all kinds of civil society organizations to distribute and assure that any information that's provided on vaccines is reliable, credible, scientific information. Every child needs to be vaccinated against measles. What WHO is doing is supporting the outbreak responses by assuring everybody in that outbreak is getting vaccinated to avoid illness. For those kids who are already ill, we're supporting the care of those children to assure that they survive the illness. And we're also supporting governments so that they have a much stronger immunization program and we're not in the position of having to respond to outbreaks.
Travelers across France endured a second day of chaos on Friday as unions vowed to keep up their strike until President Emmanuel Macron backs down on controversial pension overhauls. Rail operator SNCF said 90% of high-speed TGV trains were again cancelled and several airlines dropped flights, including Air France, EasyJet, and Ryanair. 9 of the capital's 16 metro lines were shut and most others severely disrupted, sparking some 350 kilometers of traffic jams in the Paris region, well above the usual 200 kilometers the traffic website reported. Many employees were unable to get to work and several schools again provided only daycare though fewer teachers were on strike compared with Thursday when some 800,000 people demonstrated across the country, according to the Interior Ministry. Now, the walkout is the latest test for President Macron after months of protests from teachers, hospital workers, police, and firefighters, as well as the Yellow Vest movement demanding improved living standards. Unions say his universal pension system, which would eliminate dozens of separate plans for public workers, forces millions of people in both public and private sectors to work well beyond the legal retirement age of 62. Now, Health Minister Agnes Buzyn said Friday that the government had heard the protesters' anger and would meet with union leaders to discuss the reform on Monday. The minimum pension age in France is 62, one of the lowest among developed countries. But there are 42 special regimes for railway workers, lawyers, opera employees, and others offering earlier retirements and other benefits. Now, the government says a single system will be fairer for everyone while ensuring its financial viability, while acknowledging that people will gradually have to work longer. And at the Eiffel Tower closed exceptionally due to a nationwide strike over pension reforms. Tourists are disappointed, but many empathize with the trade union's decision to strike. Take a look.
The bigger issue is about the transports, like the train, the metro. It's closed, so we need to walk or get an Uber. It's a little bit more expensive, but, well, what can I do? Just accept it.
I'm a hard worker too. I work 2 jobs to get here. So, I mean, I would be on their side. I just feel like the people that striking, the people that they work for should have listened to them, and then it wouldn't have been a strike.
I think they're right to be on strike because, yeah, they have to, they have the right to keep their benefits. Like, I think about myself, if I were in their place, I would do the same.
In other news, Hong Kong pro-democracy activists vowed to hold another massive rally over the weekend and warned the city's pro-Beijing leader not to think a recent lull in violence means public anger is weakening. The semi-autonomous financial hub has been battered by 6 months of increasingly violent protests pushing for greater democratic reforms and freedoms and police accountability in the most stark challenge the city has presented to Beijing since its 1997 handover. The last fortnight has seen a marked drop in street battles and protester vandalism after pro-democracy candidates won a landslide in local council elections, shattering government claims that a silent majority opposed to the movement. But activists say anger is building once more after Chief Executive Carrie Lam and Beijing ruled out any further concessions despite the pro-establishment drubbing. Mrs. Lam has remained steadfast in her opposition to further concessions, and Beijing has stuck by her even as she languishes with record low approval ratings. Millions have hit the streets in protest fueled by years of growing fears that authoritarian China is stamping out the city's liberties. Meanwhile, Hong Kong residents give their take on Hong Kong's pro-democracy demonstrations 6 months on. The unprecedented movement was born on June 9, when an estimated 1 million people took to the streets to protest a proposed bill allowing extradition to mainland China. Let's take a look.
自己好唔開心，唔開心到唔睇新聞。咁而家好似平靜咗落嚟啦，我講起都仲有少少激動。咁呢幾日覺得平靜咗啦，咁心情好一啲啦。其實我抑鬱藥都唔食住啦。過去嗰幾個月我真係食抑鬱藥，點解大家都好唔開心？但係而家我個甜咧，我覺得係開心翻。咁希望大家都好開心。
就痛心咯。就如果咁樣示威咧，就唔係太適合，我覺得。示威阻礙到咧市民嘅生活啦，同埋咧感覺上咧係做唔到嘢咯。
The whole city is quite depressive, and I'm one of them. It feels like we need help, but I don't know where could we find people to help us.
我冇諗過離開香港，因為香港其實係好好嘅，只不過係有陣時咁，你好似年青人下一代佢嘅想法，你有陣時都要接受佢嘅想法㗎嘛。即係後生佢後生嘅諗法，但係我哋做我哋嘅諗法又係唔同，咁所以就係要坐低慢慢傾咯。
Meanwhile, Beijing residents give their take on Hong Kong's pro-democracy demonstrations. Let's take a look.
最好怎么解决？还是我们肯定能解决的。别说你这样暴乱再大，中国人肯定能解决。最好以和平方式解决，因为都是小孩子，垂直外部势力搞鬼，就是美国，因为美国就是要战争，中国人爱好和平。
我们还是尽快的，希望香港能恢复正常的治安跟正常的生活。
And the news continues here in Eagle News. We'll be right back.
Huli ng MTRCB ang mag-provide na appropriate rating.
Host nation, the Philippines polished off a clean sweep of obstacle course gold medals at the Southeast Asian Games on Friday, with wins in the men's and women's 5-kilometer category. Mervin Guarte and Sandy Abahan jumped, swung, and clambered their way to victory in the 20-obstacle race in Manila, completing a 6 out of 6 haul for the home team in the event's SEA Games debut. Meanwhile, Philippine racers Sherwin Managil and Glorian Merisco took both silvers in the outdoor event at Philinvest City, which included a balance beam, tilting ladder, monkey bar, and a slip wall covered in water. About 8,750 athletes and officials are taking part in this regional Olympics spread across dozens of venues in the northern Philippines, which was earlier hit by a typhoon this week. Now, the marathon kicked off the athletics program at the Games main hub in New Clark City, where Filipino runner Christine Halasgo caused a major upset by edging countrywoman Mary Joy Tabal to take gold. Halasgo pulled away in the final stretch to beat the reigning SEA Games champion by 2 minutes in 2 hours, 56 minutes, and 56 seconds. Indonesian Prayogo Agus won the men's race with a time of 2 minutes, 26.48 seconds ahead of Thailand's Namket Sanchai and Malaysia's Muhammad Muhaizar. Meanwhile, Bianca Pagdanganan captured the first SEA Games gold for the women's individual stroke play at the Southeast Asian Games on Friday at the Luisita Golf and Country Club. This is the host country's first gold medal for golf on the ongoing SEA Games. Pagdanganan finished with a 3-day total of 209 for a 7-under score, while Banabody Carded a 72 for 212, and her compatriot Pianipa Panthong also a 71 for a total of 213. Banabody settled for the silver medal, while Panthong took the bronze. And Vietnam swimmer Nguyen Huy Huong broke the Southeast Asian Games recorded en route, winning the gold medal in the men's 1,500-meter freestyle at the New Clark City Aquatic Center. Huong broke the SEA Games record, which was set by him in Malaysia 2 years ago. Now he clocked the best time of 14 minutes 58.14 seconds, which was a new SEA Games record, and over 17 seconds faster than the Indonesian runner-up Afla Prawira. Vietnam's and Huong's teammate Nguyen Hu Kim Son won the bronze with a timing of 14 minutes 58.14 seconds. Huong booked a place in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics as well. Now, earlier on Wednesday, Huong took gold and broke the SEA Games records in the men's 400-meter freestyle event with a time of 3 minutes and 49.08 seconds. And 4 members of the Philippine boxing team scored smashing victories and advanced to the semifinals of the 30th Southeast Asian Games at the PICC Forum on Wednesday night. Former world champion Josie Gabuco, Ira Villegas, Irish Magno, and Carlo Paalam won their respective quarterfinal matches at the start of the boxing competitions in the biennial meet. Paalam, Villegas, and Magno won their bouts via shutouts, with only the 32-year-old Gabuco, winner of a gold medal in the 2012 AIBA World Championship, receiving stiff resistance from Thai opponent Raksa Chutamat in the women's light flyweight division. In the women's bantamweight class, Villegas whipped Vijay Phon Vong Panchan of Laos 5-0, while Magno pulled off the same score against Singaporean Leona Wee in the flyweight class. Paalam, the lone male Filipino boxer to see action on opening day, cruised to a 5-0 victory over Kampuvan Kamsantone of Laos in the light flyweight class.
Sobrang saya kasi siyempre dito talaga wala na talagang daya kasi kahit na doon siya, nalaglag siya doon, panalo pa rin sa akin. So, sobrang saya siyempre. Siyempre plano panalo, daya. Pero meron talaga, hindi namin hawak yung decision sa judges. So, okay lang. Kasi sabi ko nga, masikap pa ako.
Four-time 8-ball world champion Efrem Baterreyes settled for a bronze medal in the men's one-cushion carom event at the 30th Southeast Asian Games after being defeated by his Vietnamese opponent, who advanced to the finals instead. Reyes bowed down to Din Nai Ngo with a score of 114. On Wednesday, Reyes destroyed his Thai opponent, Punyawi Tongchai, 137. In previous interviews, Reyes had said he would do his best to get the gold, but said his skill was no longer the same as before. He also commended Vietnam, who he said was a very good player. Meanwhile, the Philippines bowed down to Thailand in straight sets, 25-16, 25-22, 34-32, relegating the host country to a bronze hunt in the women's volleyball tournament of the 30th Southeast Asian Games at the Philsports Arena in Pasig. But the national team, as promised, gave the Thais 13-time SEAG champions a showdown to remember, even forcing a 7-point deuce in third and final set. After a seemingly relentless back-and-forth exchange, Thailand's Kokram Pimpichia delivered crucial skills to end the match 34-32. The Philippines needs to win its last 2 games, with the first against Indonesia on Monday to at least secure a bronze. And the Philippines continued to dominate the 30th Southeast Asian Games after Day 5 with 63 gold medals, 45 silvers, and 32 bronze medals. The host country now has a total medal haul of 140. Second is Vietnam with 31 golds, 35 silvers, and 41 bronze medals, or 107 medals in all. Third is Indonesia with 27 golds, 36 silvers, and 39 bronze medals, or 102 medals in all. Fourth is Singapore with 26 golds, 18 silvers, and 29 bronzes, followed by Malaysia with 23 golds, 16 silvers, and 24 bronze medals. At 6th place is Thailand with 16 golds, 22 silvers, and 30 bronze medals. Now it's followed by Cambodia with 2 golds, 3 silvers, and 17 bronze medals. Myanmar with 1 gold, 8 silvers, and 23 bronze medals. And Brunei Darussalam with 1 gold, 5 silvers, and 5 bronzes. Laos is at the 10th place with 2 silvers and 10 bronze medals. And we'll be back with more news right after this break.
Straight. You never know when a simple hi or a smile can brighten someone's day. In the words of George Eliot, wear a smile and have friends, wear a scowl and have wrinkles. What do we live for if not to make the world less difficult for each other? Don't forget to watch episodes of Digital Nest every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 p.m. I'm Melissa Protest, EBC Orlando correspondent, and I am 1 with 25.
Top U.S. Democrat Nancy Pelosi gave the green light to draft articles of impeachment against President Trump, as the embattled leader vowed he would win the coming fight. By asking the House Judiciary Committee chairman to draw up the charges, Speaker Pelosi signaled that a formal vote on impeaching the 45th American president is all but assured.
The president has engaged in abuse of power, undermining our national security and jeopardizing the integrity of our elections. His actions are in defiance of the vision of our founders and the oath of office that he takes to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Sadly, but with confidence and humility, with allegiance to our founders and a heart full of love for America, today, I am asking our chairman to proceed with articles of impeachment.
Pelosi's address was short and somber, but America's most powerful female politician, facing a high-pressure moment of reckoning, concluded a follow-up press conference by showing flashes of anger when a reporter asked if she hated the president. Let's listen in.
You heard yesterday in the Judiciary Committee the scholars present the Constitution and how the facts and the Constitution give us no choice but to move forward with impeachment of the president. And so I'm arranged for the chairs. We have 6 chairs of the relevant committees to make recommendations about articles of impeachment.
Do you hate the president, Madam Speaker?
We don't hate anybody.
Representative Collins,
was raised in Catholic house. We don't hate anybody, not anybody in the world. So don't you accuse me.
I did not accuse
you. You did.
I asked a question.
In the election, This is about the Constitution of the United States and the facts that lead to the president's violation of his oath of office. And as a Catholic, I resent your using the word hate in a sentence that addresses me. I don't hate anyone. I was raised in a way that is a heart full of love, and always prayed for the president. And I still pray for the president. I pray for the president all the time. So don't mess with me when it comes to words like that.
Meanwhile, a defiant President Trump dared Democrats to press ahead with impeachment now fast so that he can have a fair trial in the Senate, where his party holds power and he's confident of being exonerated. The good thing is that the Republicans have never been more united, Trump tweeted, and we will win, with a majority of the Democratic-controlled chamber already expressing intent to back the divisive procedure. President Trump is likely to become just the third president in U.S. history to be impeached by the House of Representatives. Meanwhile, U.S. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy said congressional Democrats sought to impeach President Donald Trump even before his conduct toward Ukraine drew scrutiny. Let's listen in.
They've always wanted to impeach the president. You watch them at their words, watch them at their actions, watch them what they have done. The most important part here is Alexander Hamilton, founding father, was concerned and warned us that this day could come. History will look back today and it'll be a sad day. Okay, let's stick to the facts. The president asked a country to participate in a case that happened in 2016. That's 100% legal. That happens every day in America dealing with other countries. It is a case that the U.S. attorney had already opened. If you watched the hearing yesterday, Turley was asked the question from John Radcliffe, and he stated and agreed, no bribery, no extortion, no obstruction of justice, no abuse of power. That was the answer. I do not understand what they have going forward. They have a timeline, but they have no proof, so they brought professors in. They selected professors that were donors to the Democratic Party.
In other news, the United States said that Iranian authorities may have killed more than 1,000 people in a crackdown on demonstrations, which Washington cast as the clerical regime's worst ever internal challenge. Take a look.
In Mashhad, a city in southwest Iran, a number of Iranian demonstrators blocked a road. The State Department has received videos of what happened next. Without warning, the IRGC opened fire on the protesters, killing several people. Many of the protesters fled to nearby marshlands to escape. The IRGC tracked them down and surrounded them with machine guns mounted on trucks. They then sprayed the protesters with bullets. Between the rounds of machine gun fire, the screams of the victims can be heard. Many thousands of Iranians have been wounded, and at least 7,000 protesters have been detained in Iran's prisons. The Houthis' de-escalation proposal, which the Saudis are responding to, shows that Iran clearly does not speak for the Houthis, nor have the best interests of the Yemeni people at heart. Iran is trying to prolong Yemen's civil war to project power.
The damning account came as the U.S. put new pressure in the region on its arch-enemy, with an official saying the Pentagon was considering sending 5,000 to 7,000 more troops. Protests broke out on November 15 across Iran, whose economy has suffered under sweeping sanctions from the U.S. after the government abruptly hiked fuel prices. Hook said the ensuing crackdown showed that the regime has had to rely on brute force and was losing support even with its traditional working-class base.
They're killing protesters. They turn down their internet system. People aren't hearing what's going on. I would like to see the media get involved in that and go in and see what's happening, because it's not a good situation. It's a horrible situation. America will always stand with the Iranian people in their righteous struggle for freedom. They're not being treated properly. All of that money is being wasted on weapons and on other things, and they're not treating their people properly. And their people all over the country, they're rioting and they're protesting and they're very unhappy. I think the Iranian situation could be fixed very quickly and very easily, and it could become really something special, as it was at certain points of time. There are certain points of time where it was doing very well, but for quite a long time it's been doing very poorly. But it could be fixed very quickly. But we have people that just don't want to do that. For some reason, they just don't want to do that. They don't get it. We'll announce whatever we do, we'll announce. But certainly there might be a threat, and if there is a threat, it'll be met very strongly. But we'll be announcing whatever we may be doing, may or may not be doing.
To the Philippines now, damage to agriculture and areas affected by the rains dumped by Typhoon Kamuri in this province has been initially estimated at 6.714 million pesos. Elson Amado Egarge, head of the Provincial Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office, or PDRIMO, said Friday that although the province was not in the direct path of Tisoy, the continuous moderate to heavy rains caused flooding that affected the agricultural sector. He said the extent of damage was initially estimated at 6,498,146,000 in terms of crops, while in livestock was placed at 216,000 pesos. Dingalan Town reported the biggest agricultural losses with 3.185 million pesos in crops, followed by the capital town of Aurora, Baler, with 1,895,607 in crops, and Kasiguran with 1,407,539 in crops and 216,000 in livestock. Although floodwaters have gradually subsided in most parts of the province, authorities said there are still some areas underwater due to the swelling of the rivers. The U.S. Justice Department unveiled indictments of 2 Russians with ties to their country's intelligence services who ran a major global cyber theft operation under the name Evil Corp. Take a look. An indictment unsealed in Pittsburgh named Maxim Yakubets and Igor Turashev as the main figures in a group which inserted malware on computers in dozens of countries to steal more than $100 million from companies and local authorities.
Maxim Yakubets of Moscow, Russia, has been indicted in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for his alleged role as the leader of a cyber criminal gang responsible for the distribution of a multifunction malware package known as Bugat. Over the past decade, the Bugat malware facilitated the theft of millions of dollars from victims, some of which occurred as recently as May of this year. A second co-conspirator, Igor Turashev, also was indicted in Pittsburgh in connection with the Bugat scheme.
Evil Corp, a name reminiscent of the nickname for the key malevolent corporation in the popular television drama Mr. Robot, is run by a group of individuals based in Moscow, Russia, who have years of experience and well-developed trusted relationships with each other. That is according to the Treasury Department's press release. The Evil Corp used phishing schemes to insert Drydex, Bugat, and other malware files on a victim's computer. The malware was used to obtain identities, passwords, and ultimately access to bank accounts from which the attackers would transfer money to their own accounts or to money launderers. They said that more than 300 organizations in 43 countries have been hit by the malware and many more individuals, and that the group continued to operate. Now, both of those charged remain at large, and the U.S. State Department announced a $5 million reward toward the arrest and conviction of Yakubets.
And they changed from the use of international wire transfers to ransomware and cryptocurrency to private accounts. And this is why this has been the most widespread and destructive malware and banking Trojans in the world over the last decade.
Ride-sharing leader Uber, under fire around the world for its safety record, said it had tallied nearly 6,000 sexual assaults in the United States over the past couple of years. Now, that included more than 450 cases of rape, according to Uber's first public report into the issue on Thursday, which counts attacks by both passengers and drivers over 2017 to 18. It also revealed that 19 fatal assaults related to the company over the 2-year period, when it averaged more than 3.1 million trips each day in the U.S. Sexual assaults were reported on 0.00002% of trips Uber calculated. While these reports are rare, every report represents an individual who came forward to share an intensely painful experience, it said. Even one report is one too many. Uber stressed that the figures also showed its drivers were attacked about the same rate as passengers reporting sexual assault. Drivers are victims too, it said. Now, while the report is confirmed or confined to Uber's biggest market, the company faces complaints worldwide that it's doing too little to protect passengers. In London, Uber has lost its license after transport authorities said the company had failed to fix a litany of safety issues, including at least 14,000 cases of drivers handing their permits to unlicensed friends or relatives. Uber continues to operate in the British capital pending an appeal. In France, the firm is under pressure from a viral campaign detailing sexual assault involving its drivers under the hashtag #UberIt'sOver. The U.S. report classified 5,981 sexual assaults ranging from non-consensual sexual penetration to unwanted kissing or touching. It showed that the total number of reported assaults rose in 2018 in 3 of the 5 categories covered. But the firm said the frequency of attacks dropped 16% due to a rise in overall passengers. More than 50 polar bears have gathered on the edge of a village in Russia's far north, environmentalists and residents say, as weak Arctic ice leaves them unable to roam. Take a look. The Russian branch of the World Wildlife Fund said climate change was to blame, as unusually warm temperatures prevented coastal ice from forming. The WWF said 56 polar bears had gathered in a 1 square kilometer area near the village of Rerkaipi in Chukotka on the northeastern tip of Russia. Now, there were concerns they could enter the village, home to fewer than 1,000 people, and patrols had been set up to monitor their movements. Residents had gathered walrus carcasses in the area to try to keep the bears from wandering into the village. Russia's weather service said temperatures in the region should fall from Saturday and that coastal ice should freeze by December 11. Polar bears regularly visit areas inhabited by humans in Arctic Russia to search for food, often in rubbish tips. But the number of visits has been growing as the melting of Arctic ice from climate change forces the bears to spend more time on land where they compete for food. Esports edged further into the mainstream sports world with this week's debut at the Southeast Asian Games, but the Holy Grail Olympic recognition remains stubbornly out of reach. A much-hyped launch in Manila starring rows of gamers in matching tracksuits and headphones marked the first time competitive gaming has been a medal event at an Olympic-recognized multi-sport competition. Yet the Olympic movement has made clear it's premature to discuss embracing the commercially driven pursuit, and there's no indication that it's about to change. Gaming industry chiefs and experts see a lack of organization, there's no unified world governing body, and a generational divide as key stumbling blocks.
So this is a sport of the minds, and this is the first time also our e-sport athletes are educated that they have to go to doping, where they have not experienced it before. And they're not part of this multi-sport event like any other sport that they have to go through this process of becoming a national team.
As it stands, a number of different organizations or companies are the driving forces in a business that one industry report estimates will bring $1 billion in revenues this year. Now, key to that flow of cash is a massive worldwide audience that is expected to top 450 million people in 2019. Despite the huge numbers involved, the business-first nature of esports and the question of whether leisure gaming is a sport at all has made the Olympic movement cautious. Players from 9 countries are competing over 6 days for medals in Mobile Legends, Arena of Valor, Dota 2, StarCraft 2, Tekken 7, and Hearthstone. And that's the news for tonight. Join us online and here again tomorrow evening. From all of us here at Eagle News, I'm Alma Angeles, always one with 25.